You guys did a new record, it's called White Crosses. Does that refer to the lyrics? Like, does that have to do anything with the songs contained on that record? Is it conceptual? Is it connected?
Wait, which question first?
Yeah, man. White Crosses. I actually, when I was writing the record, I was living in St. Augustine, Florida, which is a small town like 75 miles away from Gainesville. And around the corner from the house I was living in, there's a church, and on the church lawn, there's 4,000 white crosses. And it was little tiny white crosses about a foot high off the ground. And there was a big billboard too with pictures of children's faces, and it was called the Cemetery of the Innocents. And it was one cross to represent every abortion that happened in America every day. And it's just such a fucking ugly thing to look at. And all the time, every time I drive by it or whatever, I just fantasize about getting out of my car, driving my car off the road, and just smashing every one of them into the ground. And I think that, that feeling, how good it would have felt to actually do that, is kind of similar to how it feels to play the songs on the record. It's just a real release. So I think that it relates to the songs on the record in that way.
In that way, yeah. Because I've read the story about this church and this crosses, and I've read in a forum, which is an Against Me forum.
Yeah.
People posted man, I think the song's about about soldiers. It's no, it's not. Instantly, but did you know that white cross is a slang word for cocaine?
It's not. It's actually slang for an amphetamine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I read that too, and then I got into reading this whole thing about it. And just I thought I should just ask you guys.
If you read the rest of the lyrics of the song, I mean, the song's about kind of just getting lost in St. Augustine and whatever, but it's also about getting high on amphetamines. So it works in both sense for the crosses on the church lawn and the amphetamine.
Nice. It's have you been living with your wife in St. Augustine? So you turn out to be a father right now.
I had a daughter on October 30th. Yeah.
Lucky you are. Is this does that change perspectives on lyrics and sort of settling down, being a father, everything like that? Do you still drive by those white crosses and are still as angry as before?
Well, I'm living in Los Angeles now, and we're on
tour,
tour, so I don't drive there at all.
It'd be a very far drive.
But I mean, you have a family, you know what it's like. It definitely changes your perspective, and it definitely, in some respects, gives you more patience for some things and gives you less patience for other things. And, it just makes you realize what's important and makes you focus on what you want to do. And I don't know, in context of being in a band, it kind of makes you really conscious of the possible reverberations of things you're going to do. Knowing that maybe one day my daughter could possibly see this interview on YouTube or something like that. So I better be careful what I say. Yeah.
Because I don't have the official press info or anything, but I just I was told that the first single is gonna be called Teenage Anarchist.
I think that's the first single. Yeah, I was a teenage anarchist. Yeah.
Is this autobiographical?
To an extent, sure, but I think that people will probably read way more into it than necessary. I mean, with a lot of the songs on the record, it's definitely lyrically trying to, to draw from my past, and look to that for inspiration and kind of reconcile it with the present and figure out how, just try to make sense of it all, really. I mean, being in a band, you spend so much time just going, and it's rare to get the chance to kind of reflect. And when we were done touring for New Wave, definitely had some time to do that. And so,
have you ever just been catching yourself singing along the lyrics by changing diapers?
Not yet, no.
Because I had this weird experience that somehow when you do stuff and you have a family, you have kids, and you do what you do every day with those kids, it's kind of really feels weird about some things, how you think and how you interact, because it's it's a different approach to it, because you have to behave in a different way. And it's just thinking if if you put a song on it, and I've read part of the lyrics, which were basically people hearing out of YouTube videos.
Yeah,
That's what I read, and I know this, and it's kind of I just thought about the fact I really think it's weird if you become a father, and it's you have those songs, and you're asked about that afterwards by your kids. They ask yeah man, what's that? Why you sing
Well,
like you?
I've yet to have that happen, but I guess one day it probably will. You know.
Like you've been doing the new record with Butchvik again.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is this like, does it change when you work with him? Is it like the same every time? Like,
I'd say it gets easier.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you know, the first time we worked with him, it's, you know, you're getting to know him. You're getting to know each other.
Yeah.
So you're entering into a new relationship and figuring out how you work together. And I'm sure he was trying to figure out the way the band worked and you know, trying to figure out the strengths and weaknesses of everybody as players. And, you know, going in to make White Crosses, we already had a relationship established.
Yeah.
And we already knew we trusted him, and we already knew that, you know, the much better idea of the possibilities we could do with the record. And I think that we're so lucky in the relationship that we have with him, and I hope to continue making records with him.
because like, do you feel like that is important? Like, if you want to go on with a band and like evolve as a band, that certain things don't change? Like, will you find someone who records your records, who does a good job, who you like personally, and you don't have the feeling you want to go back because it works out?
But I think he wants to evolve as well as we do. You know, it's because we didn't do things the same way on this record like we did New Wave. It was more intricate and, you know, trying different
Well, I think
stuff.
he pushed us harder in a lot of ways too, and but I think at the same time that, you know, he pushed us harder because there was already that established relationship. Whereas if he had maybe taken the same approach to New Wave, it would have been too much, and it would have been like, oh, you know, who's this guy who's coming in and has all these ideas, you know? But definitely, like, it's just a really positive relationship and a really easy working relationship, and it's just filled with trust.
Does he involve, like, in a way like that you like do demos or show him songs and he's like, he listens to it, how you play it, and then he's like interacts, like he's got like ideas about changes and stuff like that? Or does he do like...
It's a total collaborative effort for sure. I mean,
you do? Like,
you know, like a lot of the times during pre-production, I went out to LA a little earlier than everybody else, and I was actually there a couple months before we started officially pre-production. And, you know, I went into the studio sometimes with him, and we were demoing in a little studio with just an idea of a song. And, you know, I was like, hey, I wrote this song, I haven't even showed it to the rest of the band. And we just build the song in the studio, and I, you know, play all the instruments and work out the drums in MIDI, you know, and just kind of do a rough demo of the song, and then I'd send the demo to the rest of the band and be like, here's the song that, you know, I wrote and demoed with Butch, and then everyone would learn it, and then as a band we'd work it out, you know.
Okay.
And when we were actually doing pre-production, you know, I'd wake up and go over to Butch's house for a couple hours, and we'd work on song structure and stuff and melodies, and then we'd meet up with the rest of the band and for a couple hours in the afternoon and work it out as a band then too. So it was really just a real involved process before even stepping into the studio.
yeah, that's what I wanted to know. That was one of my next questions. If you do demos and pre-production, like really, and then start working as a band, like later on, like get everybody in the studio, everybody tries to figure out how to play stuff, and do you change stuff afterwards? Like,
Yeah, I think
like
that
the whole stuff runs like all the time?
Yeah, well, I mean, when we went into the studio, we definitely had an idea, or it was pretty solid. Like, you knew all the parts of the songs, we knew exactly how it was going to be, and then a lot of in the studio, it's more about the tones and, and you know, tempos and stuff like that, and the overall groove of the song, I guess. But all these songs just underwent so many transformations along the way. It's pretty astounding.
They evolved.
Yes.
Evolved.
Do you have this feeling of like, if you listen to a new record and you're like, man, this sounds so good. Why haven't we done this before? Like, have you get this? Like, especially with instruments.
Yeah, for sure.
I always got this. Like, you get it and you're like, man, it's the same stuff. It just sounds different because it's new. I don't know. It's like, it feels strange. If you get out of the studio and everything's like new and ready-made, you have the feeling like, yeah, you could have done this before, but you couldn't, you know?
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Well, I think what's unfortunate, though, is that most of that stuff, and I was saying it earlier, is that it's lost on most people. Most people who aren't in bands aren't paying attention to that stuff, you know? No one's going to... the majority of people aren't going to listen to our record and be like,
That
did you
snare
hear
sounds killer.
Yeah, or do you hear how they change snares between that song and that song? Or what kind of amp are they using on that song?
That rides too.
That's how I listen to music. You
Yeah,
know?
but you're in a band and you're a musician, but most people are like...
We're the minority.
Yeah.
People ask you about the song, you're like, I don't know, I listen.
Yeah.
The gate is amazing, you know? It's like,
Sweet
You're like, what
compression.
gate?
you're known like as a band which is like nearly constantly on tour, like for a long time, and you do a new record. Is it still this urge to play live afterwards, come out of the studio and having this feeling of I want to really go on the road and play, or are you exhausted?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't a complaint about the studio, but it's night and day with touring. You know, you're cooped up in the studio.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like, you go on tour for too long and you're like, man, can't wait to go into the studio.
Yeah.
But then you're in the studio for too long and you're like, man, can't wait to go on tour.
You switched a member, like in the band. Is it weird to go on tour with a new guy? Like to get in the van and just like stuff changes, like,
It's fresh, Yeah, I mean, it's like a learning process too.
Yeah.
It's nice though.
I didn't initially know that George snores really loud, but it took me staying with him one time, and then I realized maybe I need to room with someone else.
This is kind of weird if you travel with the same people all the time, and it's like you get used to it and you get someone new on the bus. I couldn't imagine, because I have my band still in that setup like it was in the beginning, but if you're touring around, everybody's got his place in our van. You know what the people listen to, you know what they do. And if you get in the van, there's a new guy, it's like, this is my place, man. Yeah. That's where I've been sitting for the last 6 years. I think this is kind of like really strange. This is what I want to know is like, does it change how you make music, how you play music? Because you go in the studio, you have new songs, you have a new drummer who plays in a different way, who's like a really talented drummer who can really do what he does, but does it change like how you play guitar, how you do stuff?
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, it changes the dynamic of the relationships all around. It's not only like, I think having, George come in, it wasn't just being like, okay, here's this new person who we have to figure out the way that works. It also makes you re-examine your relationship with everyone else, and it just kind of totally changes the power dynamic. Yeah.
I mean, like we've used as an example, going back and, with George, we've learned I don't know how many songs, a lot of old songs.
Go back and relearn all our old songs.
And and reevaluate and just be looking at each other and be like, what are you playing there?
Yeah.
And we've been playing them, for whatever, six years, and be like, you're playing that? That doesn't fucking work. Right?
We've been trying for 2 years to play a first record. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
I can't play that fucked up anymore.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. Does this lead to having this feeling of that you want to do something different on the new record?
I don't know about different, just always get better.
Yeah, well, and I think one of the amazing things about George too is that he's just an incredibly versatile drummer. So having that, being in the studio and being like, well, maybe if we try to be a little more like that, and having him immediately be able to do it was awesome.
Yeah.
What I was thinking about is so the last record was kind of really well recognized in the media. Just people really got to know Against Me from magazines, everything. You went to a big label, there's this promo machine running, everybody gets to know you, it's kind of nice. How does it feel to play in front of more and more and more people in an audience you can't really, figure out what it's filled with, which kind of people, totally different people, and you're singing songs like New Wave, on big festivals with lots of people listening. Do you think this changes the responsibility to what you write and what you think, or do you just do what you do and what happens with everyone else around just happens?
I think people are people, I don't think it's writing, using the song New Wave as a specific example. It's not like when writing that song, it was I'm only talking to this group of people, and anyone else who comes, I'm not really talking to you. It was anyone who's willing to listen, I'm talking to you.
And playing to a diverse group of people is the best thing ever.
Yeah.
You don't want to play to a stereotype. You don't want to play to a stereotype, and you don't want to play up a stereotype. So you want anyone who wants to come to a show be able to come and
Do you think there's a way when you is there this feeling that you see all those people in concerts and then they are getting more and more and more? Do you have this feeling, because I do, that you sometimes you're standing on the stage and you're thinking, I should transfer information or thoughts or stuff in an easier way, that you really want to say something in between songs, grab a brick and throw it through a window, stuff like that?
No, when I'm up there, I'm just thinking, I am rocking so fucking hard right now. Look at me go.
How it works. It just does.
You're just thinking, you're psyching yourself up. Go for it. Now kick, jump right here, jump.
Here it comes.
Jump. Yes, that's what rockers really think about in their head. Coming up, don't fuck up, don't fall. Don't fall. Look like you're into it. Bang your head harder. Harder, harder, harder. Okay, sorry. Edit that out. I don't want to give away the secrets.
We're done. Thanks.
Yeah, man. Thank you.